What if the biggest thing stopping you from becoming successful is not your lack of talent, not your education, not your background, not your age, not your circumstances, but one invisible force that controls millions of lives every single day? Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of judgment. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of not being good enough. Fear is responsible for more broken dreams than failure ever could be. Because failure happens after action. Fear stops action from happening at all. Think about that for a moment. Every dream you've ever had, every goal you've ever imagined, every version of yourself you've wanted to become exists on the other side of fear. And today, we're going to uncover why fear feels so powerful, why it controls so many people, and most importantly, how you can finally break free from it. Because once you understand fear, it loses its power. And once fear loses its power, your life begins to change. Chapter 1. Fear is a shadow. Imagine walking alone at night. The street is quiet. The air feels cold. You look ahead and notice a giant shadow. It appears huge, threatening, dangerous. Your heart begins to race. Your mind immediately starts creating stories. Maybe someone is hiding there. Maybe something bad is about to happen. Maybe you're in danger. But then you move closer. And suddenly you realize something surprising. The giant shadow was created by a small object. The danger wasn't real. Only the shadow looked dangerous. Fear works exactly the same way. Fear is often a shadow created by your imagination. The more attention you give it, the bigger it becomes. The more you focus on what could go wrong, the more powerful it appears. Most fears are not happening right now. They're stories about what might happen, and your mind treats those stories as reality. That is why fear feels so real. But here's something important. A shadow cannot hurt you. Only your reaction to it can. The moment you move toward fear, instead of away from it, the shadow starts shrinking. The moment you take action, fear begins losing control. The moment you face what scares you, you discover something incredible. You are stronger than you thought. This is why successful people aren't fearless. They simply understand that fear is often a shadow, and shadows disappear when light enters the room. Chapter 2. Why your brain creates fear. Many people think fear is a weakness. It isn't. Fear is actually a survival system. Thousands of years ago, fear helped humans stay alive. When early humans saw danger, fear activated. Their bodies prepared to run or fight. Fear saved lives. Without fear, humans might not have survived. The problem is that your brain hasn't fully adapted to the modern world. Today, most people aren't running from wild animals. Yet the brain still reacts as if every challenge is life-threatening. Speaking in public feels dangerous. Starting a business feels dangerous. Uploading your first YouTube video feels dangerous. Applying for a job feels dangerous. Approaching new opportunities feels dangerous. The brain cannot always distinguish between physical danger and emotional discomfort. So whenever you leave your comfort zone, the alarm system activates. That alarm is fear. Your heart beats faster. Your palms sweat. Your mind creates worst-case scenarios. And suddenly, doing something simple feels impossible. But remember this. Just because your brain sounds an alarm doesn't mean you're actually in danger. Sometimes the alarm is simply telling you that you're growing, and growth always feels uncomfortable at first. The comfort zone feels safe, but nothing grows there. Dreams don't grow there. Confidence doesn't grow there. Success doesn't grow there. Your future exists outside that zone, and fear is often standing at the entrance. Not to stop you, but to test whether you're willing to continue. Chapter 3. The Cost of Listening to Fear. Fear rarely destroys lives overnight. Instead, it works slowly, quietly, day after day, year after year. Fear whispers, "Wait a little longer. You're not ready. What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if it doesn't work?" And because those questions sound reasonable, people listen. They postpone their goals, delay their dreams, ignore opportunities, avoid challenges, and eventually, fear steals something precious: time. The saddest thing about fear isn't failure. The saddest thing is regret, because failure teaches lessons. Regret only creates pain. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, looking back at your life. What would hurt more? Trying and failing, or never trying at all? Most people don't regret the risks they took. They regret the risks they avoided, the opportunities they ignored, the dreams they abandoned, the chances they never gave themselves. Fear always demands a price, and that price is usually your potential. The question is simple: how much longer are you willing to pay it? Fear is a shadow. Part 2. The Prison of Overthinking and Fear of Failure. Chapter 4. The Prison of One of fear's favorite weapons is Fear rarely walks alone. It usually brings overthinking with it. Fear says, "What if you fail?" Overthinking replies, "Let's imagine every possible way that could happen." Fear says, "What if people judge you?" Overthinking creates hundreds of imaginary conversations. Fear says, "What if you're not good enough?" Overthinking spends hours searching for proof, and before long, you're trapped. Not by reality, but by your own thoughts. Many people believe thinking more will solve their problems. Sometimes it does. But excessive thinking often creates problems that never existed. Think about how many things you've worried about in your life. How many of them actually happened exactly as you imagined? Probably very few. Yet your mind spent countless hours preparing for disasters that never arrived. This is what fear does. It turns possibilities into certainties. It convinces you that worst-case scenarios are likely, and because the human brain naturally focuses on danger, you start believing those stories. The result: you stay stuck. Not because you're incapable, not because you're untalented, but because you've become trapped inside your own head. Successful people don't have fewer fears. They simply spend less time negotiating with them. They act before every doubt disappears. They move before every question gets answered, because they understand something important. Clarity comes from action, not endless thinking. You cannot think your way into confidence. You act your way into confidence. Every successful journey starts with uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly what will happen. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody feels completely prepared. But those who succeed take action anyway. They trust themselves enough to figure things out along the way. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. You can read books, watch tutorials, study techniques, analyze every detail. But eventually, you must get on the bike. And when you do, you wobble. You make mistakes. You fall. But that's how learning happens. Life works the same way. You cannot think yourself into mastery. You must experience it. You must practice it. You must live it. Fear wants you to stay in your head. Growth wants you to step into reality. And reality is always less terrifying than the stories fear creates. Chapter 5. Fear of failure. If there is one fear that stops more dreams than any other, it is the fear of failure. People avoid trying because they want guarantees. They want certainty. They want proof that success will happen before they begin. But life doesn't work that way. No great achievement comes with guarantees. Every entrepreneur risks failure. Every athlete risks failure. Every creator risks failure. Every leader risks failure. Every successful person you've ever admired has experienced failure. Sometimes repeatedly. Sometimes publicly. Sometimes painfully. Failure is not evidence that you're incapable. Failure is evidence that you're trying. Think about a baby learning to walk. The baby falls hundreds of times. Maybe walking just isn't for you. Nobody expects perfection because falling is part of learning. Somehow, as adults, we forget this truth. We expect ourselves to succeed immediately. And when we don't, we become discouraged. But mastery is built on mistakes. Growth is built on setbacks. Success is built on lessons. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every mistake contains information. Every setback contains wisdom. Every challenge contains growth. People who fear failure see mistakes as proof they're not good enough. People who succeed see mistakes as feedback. The same event, different interpretation, and that interpretation changes everything. Imagine two people starting a business. Both fail during their first year. The first person says, fail. I must not be capable. The second person says, I learned valuable lessons. I'll try again. One quits. The other grows. Years later, their lives look completely different. Not because one was more talented, but because one viewed failure differently. Failure is a teacher. Sometimes a harsh teacher. Sometimes a painful teacher. But always a valuable teacher. The lessons learned through failure often become the foundation of future success. Many of the world's greatest inventions were created after countless failures. Many of the greatest companies survived near collapse. Many of the greatest athletes experienced devastating defeats. Yet they continued because they understood something most people never learn. Failure only becomes permanent when you stop trying. As long as you continue moving forward, failure is temporary. As long as you continue learning, failure is useful. As long as you continue growing, failure is valuable. Fear tells you failure will destroy you. Reality teaches that failure develops you. Chapter 6. The lesson hidden inside failure. Every setback carries a lesson. The question is whether you're willing to learn it. Most people focus only on the pain. They ignore the wisdom. Imagine planting a seed. The seed must break open before it can grow. From the outside, it looks like destruction. But in reality, growth is happening. Sometimes life works the same way. What feels like failure may actually be preparation. What feels like a setback may actually be redirection. What feels like defeat may actually be development. Many successful people later realized their greatest failures were also their greatest teachers. The job rejection pushed them toward a better opportunity. The business failure taught them skills that eventually created success. The disappointment forced them to grow stronger. At the time, it felt terrible. Later, it made sense. Growth often looks like failure while it's happening. That's why patience matters. Trust matters. Persistence matters. You don't always see the purpose immediately. Sometimes understanding arrives much later. The key is refusing to quit before the lesson appears. Fear wants immediate certainty. Life rarely provides it. Instead, life rewards those who continue despite uncertainty. The people who eventually succeed are not always the smartest. They're often the ones who stay in the game long enough to learn, long enough to improve, long enough to grow, long enough to win. And every failure along the way becomes part of their story, not the end of it. Chapter 7. WHY. Failure builds confidence. This may sound strange, but confidence is often built through failure. Most people think confidence comes first. They believe successful people become confident and then take action. The truth is usually the opposite. People take action. They fail. They learn. They improve. And confidence gradually develops. Confidence is not created by avoiding challengers. Confidence is created by overcoming challenges. Every time you survive something difficult, your brain learns a powerful lesson. I can handle this. Every time you recover from failure, your brain learns another lesson. I am stronger than I thought. Every challenge you overcome becomes evidence. Evidence that you're capable. Evidence that you're resilient. Evidence that you can keep going. This is why avoiding failure also prevents confidence. If you never challenge yourself, you never collect proof of your strength. And without proof, confidence struggles to grow. The next time fear tells you to avoid failure, remember this. Failure may hurt your pride, but avoiding failure hurts your potential. One teaches, the other traps. One develops strength, the other develops regret. One moves you forward, the other keeps you standing still. The choice is yours. Will you allow fear to keep controlling your future? Or will you accept that failure is simply part of becoming the person you're meant to be? Because every great success story includes failure. The only difference is that successful people refuse to let failure write the final chapter.